Diesel hot hatches have often been vilified on forums and down the pub and even in the press. If you drive the diesel version of a Golf GTI, you don't drive a proper hot hatch. That's what they say. Volkswagen obviously agree because they changed the letter I for the letter D. They'd hate you to think that they're actually proud of the Golf GTD or that in some way it's a performance car. Ford, though, are so confident in their diesel-powered Focus ST that there's no trace of the word diesel, not even in the engine bay. This is a proper Focus ST. Just like the petrol version, it's been designed to go quickly, to be fun to drive, to sound good, bear with me, and to return enough MPG that you get to persuade your wife that it's a sensible purchase. Just like I did, because that's my car. And now you get to persuade your wife that it's a sensible purchase as well. Here's why. As this is my car, you're probably going to want to know what my favourite part of the car is, right? It's that. It's a centre exhaust pipe. But it's not just any centre exhaust pipe. The tailpipe design right there was inspired by the design of a Star Wars TIE fighter spaceship. One of these. I have it on good authority from someone who worked quite high up in the Ford marketing department when this car was designed that is absolutely true. Can you see it? Bit of Star Wars on my Ford Focus. Oh, and in other news, the tailpipe is exactly the same on the petrol version. Are you listening, Golf GTD drivers? I remember reading reviews of the Focus ST TDCI, to give it its full name, when it first came out. They said it sounds just like the petrol version inside the cabin, and it really does. And that's thanks to a special little device which sends the engine note from the engine bay into the cabin via the speakers. It isn't simulated noise, it's more manipulated noise, and it sounds good as well. The exhaust note, for that matter, is even better. It's got a satisfying deep burbly tone to it. The sports exhaust actually sounds like a sports exhaust, and that sounds good as well. And weirdly, when the DPF does its regeneration cycle, it suddenly becomes noticeably louder and more throaty from the exhaust tailpipe. Normally in a diesel car, the DPF is a pain in the arse, isn't it? But in the Focus ST diesel, it's actually something to be proud of. It's something of a party trick. When I first took my wife in this car after I bought it, I waited for the DPF to do its regen cycle, and I turned to her and I said, "Hear that? That's my DPF." She's a lucky lady.
The bragging rights continue when we're talking about performance too. If you buy a diesel Focus ST and find yourself stuck in a lift with the owner of a petrol Focus ST, do not despair. Just remember this very useful fact: the diesel actually out-accelerates the petrol by 2.2 seconds.
It does. Yeah. From 50 to 75 miles per hour. It's perfect though for those monotonous 50-mile-an-hour stretches on the motorway. You know the ones. Wait for the national speed limit sign, wait for the national speed limit sign, BAM! Bam. It's tenuous.
Okay, 8 seconds to 60 from a standing start isn't blistering, but with maximum torque coming in at around 2000 RPM, the car does feel quick, and with a smooth, responsive power delivery, it feels like a very accomplished performance car when you're behind the wheel. And it looks like one too. Like the badges and the exhaust pipe and the stunning Recaro bucket seats, externally the diesel Focus ST is identical to the petrol version. The same deep skirts and front bumper with its gaping black honeycomb grille, the same huge boot spoiler, the same 19-inch black wheels with red brake calipers found on this ST3 model, and the same poise and aggressive styling along with neat little design touches that have made the Focus ST such a popular hot hatch since the first incarnation of the car 20 years ago.
It's remarkable to think that the only modifications over the standard 150 brake Focus TDCI are an enhanced ECU, a modified air intake system, and that sports exhaust. It's also got stiffened suspension and a variable ratio steering rack as well, and coupled with Ford's brilliant 6-speed gearbox, it really does feel like you're driving something very special. It's sharp, it's precise, it's responsive. And when the DPF comes on song, well, you really could be driving anything. Like a Focus ST petrol, for example. This is very good.
If you thought honesty was in short supply as soon as you found out that this was my car, however, you'd be wrong. The Focus ST has a few niggles that, while aren't exclusive to the diesel model, are worthy of being flagged up. The touchscreen entertainment system is fiddly at best, with little buttons and a clunky scroll function. It takes that long to plumb in a postcode, in fact, that you hit at least 2 DPF cycles while the engine's idling before you set off. My wife was impressed. Visibility is awkward with those big front and rear pillars as well, and the tiny rear window. And let's not mention the frankly laughable security flaws with Ford's keyless entry and start button ignition. Having to slot your keys into an RFID pouch every time you park the car makes you look like a bit of an anorak.
The pièce de résistance, though, of the Focus ST diesel isn't that it's been made to look exactly like the petrol version, or that it sounds a bit like the petrol version inside here, and it isn't even that you continuously engineer an acceleration time that's quicker than the petrol stablemate of this car. It's this auxiliary gauge binnacle plonked on top of the dashboard. And I say plonked with the utmost affection. You see, the Series 1 Mark II Cortina GT, one of my favourite cars of all time, had 4 auxiliary gauges plonked on top of the dashboard with equal aplomb. The Escort Cosworth then rekindled the idea, cutting the gauges down to 3, but crucially adding a boost gauge. And Ford, of course, could have kept this treat as a perk for owners of the petrol version of the Focus ST. After all, who wants to monitor the boost behaviour of their turbo diesel? But why would Ford do that when they'd gone to such great lengths to make this a performance car that they could be proud of, with a Star Wars exhaust? This car might have the heart of a 2-litre Focus TDCI, but I believe it has the soul of some of the greatest sporting Fords ever made. Tell your wife that. She'll be dead impressed. And if not, you can always pick up the green handle when you go to the petrol pumps, and when she looks away, smiling handsomely, you can then pick up the black one. She'll never know. It's a great car.